Hey everybody, welcome. Emily Morgan here with Delegate Solutions. Today I'm excited to introduce you to Jason Prentice with Outcomes COO. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you.
So Jason is an integrator for companies running on EOS, and he's a forward-focused exec with a strong ability to identify opportunities for revenue growth. One of his favorite things to do is build high-performing teams to accomplish corporate objectives, and he's really passionate about implementing strategies to reduce costs and increase revenue. He began his career in automotive engineering and has traveled and lived all around the world, and has started and sold many businesses ranging from Subways to a high-end woodworking and furniture business, which I would love to hear about because actually I would love to have that kind of business. And he really works to help ambitious visionaries and their leadership teams achieve unachievable things. On his free time, he's actually a certified USA hockey coach, and he plays and coaches ice hockey in Arizona, of all places. So welcome, Jason.
Thank you.
So what is an Outcomes COO?
An Outcomes COO is a fractional COO, so it's not a full-time. But what we focus on is being 100% of the COO that any particular visionary might need. So there's some other fractional COOs out there or fractional integrators, and they might have a fixed, 10 hours or some odd amount of hours per month or per week that they're able to give to the visionary. Our real difference is that we make sure to tailor it to the visionary and the needs of their business. And we really focus on the pure integrator role. So we try not to get into a lot of other roles where we're also being project managers and helping out with several other parts of the organization. We focus on the integrator role and making sure that the operation is harmonious and running as efficiently as possible.
Yes, so let's back up a little bit, and can you explain, so we're talking EOS language here, so Entrepreneur's Operating System. Within EOS, there's an accountability chart. Typically, the visionary is at the top and the integrator is right below that.
Yes.
In plain speak, people that maybe don't know what EOS is, how would you explain an integrator?
So an integrator is usually also what's more traditionally known as the chief operating officer. So they're responsible for the operation of the business. A lot of times that includes having sales and HR and IT and all the functions of the business roll up. But the most important part is generally the actual service or product teams that deliver the organization's core product to the consumer or to the business that they're working on. So again, it's generally a COO level role where you're focused on making sure things are efficient, making sure that everyone's adhering to our fiscal policies and our procedures and those types of things.
And who typically hires you? Who makes the hiring decision for you to bring you on?
Usually it's primarily led by the visionary, but in most cases, in almost all cases, the executive leadership team or leadership team within the organization has a big say in how it goes. So typically I'll interview with all of the members of the leadership team, because the dynamic of that group is really key to the success of the operation. So if I were to have a great rapport and a great relationship with just the visionary, but maybe there was some chemistry issues with the leadership team, that's probably not going to produce the outcomes that we all want. So it's important that the entire team that's involved be involved in the interviewing and hiring and selection process.
And how do you deal with maybe one of the leadership team members is not right person, right seat? Have you ever encountered something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. In fact, I don't have the actual data to support this, but I almost think that every time I've been asked to get involved with an organization, that's been a situation that, maybe there were some questions around a particular individual. And in many of the cases, it was that they were being they were over capacity. You know, they were being asked to wear too many hats or doing too many things. And once the seat wasn't a wrong fit, it was the seat was maybe designed with too much accountability. So there's been several cases where when we refine that, when I'm added to the team, we're able to disperse some of that load, and then those people become much more successful.
Makes sense. Yeah. So we're talking GWC. Do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity to do the job? So when people are like considering making this hire, so we're presenting a different alternative, right? So we're not presenting full-time on site. We're presenting 100% of what you need. But you know, beneath the hood, you are working with other companies at the same time. So what should people be thinking about when they're making investment in an integrator?
So I think first of all, the visionary needs to, you know, have a pretty good handle on their organization and what they're willing to give up. The whole point of this is usually that they've hit a ceiling, or that they're working in the business. There's several criteria outlined in many of the books around EOS that would sort of trigger the visionary to start to look for an integrator. But once that choice is made, and a visionary decides that they're willing to start to interview or consider hiring an integrator, some of the things to make sure that that the integrator or the visionary is looking at is, again, the most important relationship will be the visionary integrator or the VI relationship. So there has to be chemistry almost from the first conversation. If it's awkward or if there's not a good fit, I would suggest against trying to force it for any reason. Next would be, of course, the leadership team and making sure that they're on board. Complementary skills. Sometimes, in a lot of cases, visionaries do a lot of things that integrators also do. They just don't enjoy doing them, or they're not as efficient. So making sure that the things that visionaries want to give up, that the integrator they're looking at has those qualities. And then the biggest thing, I think, after making sure that there's a chemistry fit, is that they can actually solve problems together. So I like to solve a problem with a visionary before we even engage, just to see how we work together.
I love that. I bet you get all kinds of interesting conversations.
Sure, yeah, always.
Awesome. And like, I guess if you maybe are the vintegrator, right? So you're the visionary and the integrator. How can you set yourself up for success to bring this person in? Because, you know, it's a lot about you being able to let go of a lot of these things that you've held on to. And one of them, I know you like to take the P&L when you come in as integrator. So what's your process to start to pull some of that off?
So we're called Outcomes COO. So one of the first things we do is we lay out the outcomes that the visionary really wants. So a lot of times these are things that the visionary has wanted for a long time, sometimes even years. Mm-hmm. Where they say things like they want more autonomy, they want to grow by 20% or 30% or something. And sometimes they've been making progress toward that, and others they have struggled. So the first thing we do is we want to lay out some of those outcomes to make sure that it's achievable. A lot of times they're ambitious. I encourage them to be ambitious, because sometimes when you're in the business, you start to doubt that you can pull it off. But having fresh eyes on it, you know, there's a lot of times where I'm like, I don't think that's unachievable. Let's go for it, you know?
Right.
So once we do that, we lay out those ambitions, those outcomes, and then we start moving through those. And in order to do that, a lot of times there are some accountability chart issues. There are some role GWC type issues, whether they get it, want it, have the capacity. And we start to I start to work with them to try to design what their company is going to look like when we start to roll out and achieve those outcomes. And that makes it, I think that makes it easier, because there's sort of a picture of like, when we do hit that 20% increased revenue, or when we do achieve those profitability goals, how will your life look, and how will the roles of your leadership team especially change.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of companies have sort of hit that ceiling, as they say in a lot of the EOS books, and their accountability chart is actually designed to not get past that. I look at it and I say, well, the way you have everybody maxed out here and you're stuck at 2 million, but you want to get to 5, there has to be capacity to grow. So, and sometimes that's eye-opening for the visionaries, and it's a relatively simple change.
Yeah. Well, I know accountability chart is something we are continually working on, but for us, until probably a few months ago, everybody in the company technically reported to me. So really sort of massaging that, and we said we need to create something that is scalable on our accountability chart, and it had to exclude the visionary overseeing. And I mean, I wasn't doing a great job with it, right? So that was a big change for us this year too.
Great.
So what is it that you love about what you do?
I have had the good fortune of being part of a lot of really strong teams over my career that have achieved things that were difficult to achieve, or even in some cases seemed unachievable when we first set out. This goes back to my early days 20 years ago when I was in Japan with Mitsubishi, and we had some really ambitious goals and we achieved them. So again, I've had that good fortune of being on high performing teams. And of course, through that, I was able to watch a lot of leaders of those teams and how they managed the teams, and what things they focused on, where they did focus their energy, and importantly, where they didn't, and how they dealt with breakdowns, just all sorts of observations. And being engineering minded, I love process, I love efficiency and continually to improve. So as I became my own entrepreneur and started my own businesses, I was constantly coming up with a process and then refining it and dialing it in. And that's what I just absolutely love to do. And when I read the book and learned about this role, I was like, wow, they made a role that would be my entire job if I could ever do that. So I've worked for a couple of companies as an integrator, and I truly did love it. And that's where I realized that there's a lot of integrators that are not only integrating, they're doing a lot of other things. And although I don't mind doing those and helping out and being a helping hand, I know I'm super passionate about just the integrator part. So I thought, well, how about if I build a business around just being an integrator?
Right.
So that's where we landed.
It's funny because when I first met you guys, you have like the same Colby almost as my integrator, which is like 8632 or something, something like that. So it's funny.
Right.
It's funny how that really plays out in the work that has to get done in that seat. Joe, who's my integrator, says, he's like the plumber, right? He's in there just fixing things all the time. Anyway, so we have something exciting to share. I know a lot of the times we're asked, or me in particular, I'm asked, how do I know if I need an assistant or I need an integrator? I can't tell. So before we kind of share our exciting update, Jason, what's your take on that question?
I think one of the biggest differentiators is if a visionary, I've met a lot of visionaries and they're awesome. They have a lot of great qualities. One of the things that I've heard a lot of them are challenged with is the accountability piece, holding people accountable. It's just a difficult thing. It's really difficult to do. It's not easy to do, and it's something that sometimes they struggle with. So I think one of my biggest roles is to be that accountability partner and to really hold, build roles out that are achievable and possible, and then hold people accountable. And I would say that that's probably one of the big differentiators between an assistant, where you're taking on extra capacity of that visionary. So if the visionary is really great at holding people accountable and really just needs capacity, just needs some more time, I could see that that's where the premium level assistant would be something of value. If the visionary says, I struggle mightily with holding people accountable, it's just not what I like to do, then that's probably one of the points that I would say, okay, maybe you want to consider an integrator, because that would be that is actually part of and one of the most important parts of the role.
Yeah, LMA. Perfect. I love that answer. I'm going to use that next time I get asked that question. Yeah, so we obviously have been spending a lot of time together, and Jason and I and his partner have put together a package that includes our services and their services. So, Jason, can you kind of give your take on what that looks like?
Sure. Yeah, what we're working on is an ability, again, to focus where we're most expert and where we have the most experience. So Emily and her team have really been, for I think over a decade, dialing in this premium level assistant role. And again, my partner Brian and I have worked hard on dialing in the integrator piece. So we're just focused on the integrator, and together it's a perfect match, because we can stay focused on integrating, but there's still some admin stuff. There's still a lot of sort of project tracking and just things that are not the highest best use of our time, but they fit right into Emily and her team's wheelhouse. So when we partner up, we're able to provide that highest level of expert service to our clients in the most efficient manner possible. So I'm only doing integrator stuff, they're doing admin stuff. We have very clear lanes, and we're able to support the visionary and the organization really efficiently.
Yeah, so we're here to help execute on a lot of the administrivia that happens in an EOS rollout. So we'll take things like updating the scorecards, or tracking to-dos coming out of the L10s, or updating the accountability chart every quarter, or planning for, quarterly planning days. So all of the different admin pieces that go with an EOS implementation, we're now partnering with Outcomes to provide that as one big package of support.
Yes.
So that is going live right now. So we're excited to share that with everybody. And Jason, where can people go to learn about, this your offering, which now includes part of our service?
So yeah, we have a website. It's called Outcomes COO. So outcomescoo.com. There's some information on there. My contact information's on there, so you can reach out to me directly. There's a contact form that will, if you'd like to fill that out, we'll obviously be in contact by email. Also, my LinkedIn profile is on that webpage, and I believe it might be shared also on this social post. Mm-hmm. So again, Jason Prentice, if you search me on LinkedIn, I'm there. So there's plenty of ways to get a hold of me, and we'd love to talk to you.
Yep. So if you're looking for an integrator that can just plug right into your company, that's bringing with them a support system that really helps them practice what they preach around doing their best work, this is a great way to think about staffing this role. So I've had a lot of interaction with Jason and his partner, and they're very smart and very knowledgeable around how to come in and do this effectively. So if you're someone who you're not ready for an on-site full-time COO, but you want a really leveraged, impactful resource, definitely encourage you to check out what they're doing. So
thank you.
Yes, thank you, Jason, for being on here today and for sharing your ideas around working with integrators, and look forward to continuing to work together.
Great. Yes, thank you. And I look forward to it as well.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.